All right, we're almost. I mean, we're literally just a couple of hours away, a couple of days away.
Clock is ticking.
I mean, it's ticking. We're excited. We're ready. Real football is back, not just preseason football,
not college football.
Yeah, not college football.
Like, it's great to see college football, but it's not the same.
And not the CFL either, because sometimes, just in a pinch, I need a little CFL football just to get myself back into the football.
See, not me. Once the Super Bowl is over, I shut it down. Like I do. I shut it down.
You a baseball guy at all?
No. I love basketball. I ride that out until June. And I'm fine with 3 months or 2 months of no sports. Like I think you just need to reset.
Yeah, just reset. Okay.
Yeah.
I not me. I need a little bit of something just to hold me over, just to keep me
fair.
real.
I get it.
The off season's fun, but I think when the real action starts, that's when we get really excited. Welcome into the Keep Prowling podcast. I'm your host DJ Beal, and I got WCCB's Gary Brode once again. Just happy that you're back.
Happy to be here, buddy.
It's been a little bit.
I think it was almost this time last year.
I think so. Yeah. I think I'll bring the optimism. I'll bring you in to bring me back down to.
I give you the realism, and if you remember correctly, the realism was pretty real last year. Yeah, I told you it was a dumpster fire in Carolina,
and I was sitting with my optimism. I was like, you know what, like
you were hyping up the Miles Sanders train. You were hyping up Thielen, which I was wrong on, I'll admit, but I think there's some inflated stats there. The Bryce Young thing, I said over and over. Write it out and just wait one more year and get Caleb Williams. That didn't work out too well. Yep, so here we are, and the worst team in the league.
Oh, and on the bright side, you can't go anywhere but up. I will say that. Well, there's one more game you can go less.
2 more, yeah.
But,
yeah, I mean, they could go winless. Yeah. They could go winless. I mean, I don't think that'll be the case, but
I think they'll get a little better. We'll see.
We will see.
We'll see. What do you guys think out there? Please let us know in the comments as well. But let's jump right into it. First things first, I want to get into the depth chart. That'll give everybody a chance to know. I'm not going to read all 53 players, but at least the mainstays. So you guys kind of have a little bit of an idea of not only the topics that we talk about today, and you can give your comments in the comments, but also you kind of just know what the Panthers are working with. So, of course, quarterback Bryce Young. Running backs, probably going to be by committee, Miles Sanders, Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard having the starting role on that one. That's a little different from last year. You got wide receivers, Adam Thielen, probably at the 1, Deontay Johnson at the 2, probably Xavier Legette at 3, Jonathan Mingo, then David Moore. The offensive line is a little different. You got Ike Ekwonu at left tackle, Damian Lewis at left guard, Austin Corbett at center, Robert Hunt at right guard, new addition there.
Yeah, that's good.
And then Taylor Moton at right tackle. And then that'll do it for the offense. Defensively, you got the guy you made sure that you locked down in Derek Brown, Shy Toto on the inside, Ashawn Robinson, another pickup throughout the offseason, Jadeveon Clowney, a late addition. You hope that helps a little bit with the Brian Burns getting out of here type situation, but who knows? Shaq Thompson at linebacker, Joey Jewell at linebacker, DJ Johnson at outside linebacker. Then you got the corners. I'm going to read the top 3 here. So J.C. Horn, if he can stay healthy. Mike Jackson, and probably Troy Hill more than likely. And then your safeties, Xavier Woods and Jordan Fuller. Jamie Robinson also was for a top-ish pick last year for the Panthers, so that gets you kind of going there.
Well, and that's the thing with a lot of these Panthers picks, you're talking about a lot of guys that were drafted early in the last couple of years that are either hoping to make that next step or they're still like in the second or third role in the depth chart.
Yeah.
And it's like, this has to start picking up considering that there's no first-round draft pick. And, obviously there's no big splash in free agency. These guys have to go. If the wheel's going to keep rolling, I mean, these guys have to step up.
And I think the problem has been, too, there has been a lack of, like, needle-mover type players, right?
Yeah.
Of course, you have the first overall pick. That always helps. But you want to see improvement from your number 1 overall pick in Bryce Young. And hopefully with a better offensive line in front of him, that helps a little bit. You add a little bit of talent in the receiver room with Deontay Johnson, but it just depends on what you think of Deontay Johnson, right? Is he kind of like a number 1 guy? I've heard a lot of people tout that he could be a number 1 guy in this offense. He probably by default will be.
Not by
you.
Not by me.
Why do you think that?
Because he was what he was. I mean, he is a solid number 2. Probably his best role is number 3. If he's a number 3 on a team, you got a great offense. If he's a number 2 on the team, you got a pretty good offense. Ergo, Pittsburgh last year, at times he looked good. Other times, meh.
Yeah.
He doesn't catch touchdowns. He's not a playmaker. He is a guy who gets receptions and will rack up yards. Sounds like someone else on the team.
Uh-huh.
Who's that sound like?
That sounds like Adam Thielen.
That sounds like Adam
A faster
Thielen.
version of Adam Thielen.
So now you have two guys doing the same role, so it essentially makes Thielen irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
One of those two guys will become irrelevant in this offense because they share a similar role. I just don't see, of all the guys to go after, I know that the pickings weren't huge, but I don't think that Johnson was the guy. I mean, I would have liked to have seen a big play guy, a burner, a down-the-field kind of threat, if you like Thielen enough to keep him around for this year and complement him. I mean, I was wrong with the Adam Thielen thing. I do think his stats last year were inflated. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think if he's on a good team, he's a 600 to 700 yard guy. But because of how bad they were, and they were throwing the ball by the second quarter almost every other play. So I don't know. I just don't think that I don't think Johnson is the guy that. I'm not saying he won't help. Yeah. I'm just saying he's not. Don't expect a Pro Bowl year. Don't expect an All-Pro year.
Okay.
Don't expect him to be in the top 15 or 20 for fantasy points. I just don't see any of that.
Can I ask you what you think about Xavier Legette?
Is
it too early to tell?
Yeah, it's way too early. I mean, I was a big Jonathan Mingo guy. I thought he's got some tools. Let's see how he matches up with Bryce Young, and let's see. He was awful. I mean, he barely was on the field. Yeah. Again, if you're a receiver and the team is throwing the ball constantly because you're down so often and you're not getting on the field, or when you are on the field, you're not getting open, you're not getting the ball. He had barely any targets per game.
Yeah.
I hope Legette is better than Mingo, but I don't know, because based on how this team has drafted in the last couple of years, it hasn't been great. There's no reason to have any faith in what Carolina has done drafting-wise.
Okay. I think on the other end of things, I felt like Deontay Johnson, for the value you got him at, was good because you needed another guy in this room. And I think it was aggressive to go after Xavier Legette and even just trading up the one pick to get the guy that you really wanted. I think that was aggressive to do, but I like to see Dan Morgan being aggressive. And I think if Legette lives up to the hype, I think he could be really good. It's just going to depend on if he can live up to what that is, and that's crazy amount of hype in this area.
And DJ, I don't have a problem with going after him. I mean, essentially, Carolina is the poor man's Chicago Bears right now, in the sense of we have a young quarterback, we're not paying him. Let's get as many receivers as we can. Let's throw darts at a dartboard, see what sticks. Get him as many weapons for now as possible, and hopefully that's enough to get his confidence going, which in turn will get the team rolling. I don't have an issue with it. I just was hoping for a bigger name. I don't know who would have been out there. But
I don't know, and I don't know what you think about this name because we haven't talked about it in terms of on the podcast at least. But a guy that I was kind of hoping for, at least to give you something that you didn't have last year, was like a Hollywood Brown. A guy you could probably get for a little cheaper, but a guy who we've seen he can have a good season. He's going to give you speed that you don't have, that at least last year you didn't have on this team.
Absolutely, and here's why you know it was a good decision, because the Chiefs decided to get him.
Yeah.
And the fact that the Chiefs got him, they're obviously a franchise that makes a few good decisions in the last several years. So if they wanted him, there's a reason for it. Now, I'm not saying they've swung for the fences every single time with receivers as of late since they got rid of Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to have seen a guy like that, a burner who can stretch the field, who can give a different option than what you have with Thielen.
Yeah.
Maybe they think that Legette and Mingo are those guys that could maybe be the ones that stretch the field, and they want to keep everything a little bit closer.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of – when you're talking about a young quarterback and an offensive line that's rebuilding, struggled – you're probably realizing, and this did happen last year, there's not a lot of time to throw the ball downfield.
Yeah.
We saw that a lot last year. I mean, he was getting crushed after 2 seconds.
Yeah, and I heard something that specifically was 2.7 seconds is how fast they want Bryce Young to get rid of the ball. And I think because of the receiver Thielen is right now in his career, I think that helps because I think he can get open pretty quickly. I think Deontay Johnson as your kind of intermediate speed option, I think is good. And I think you let Legette hopefully burn people down the field if that's what you want. Now, I don't know in terms of tight end, I don't know what they're going to do. I know Trimble and Ian Thomas are both dealing with injuries. This might be a chance for Jatavion Sanders, another one of their draft picks, to show that he can be the guy in that room.
Well, and I'm going to throw this out there, and don't please don't misinterpret this. I think Thielen, not saying he'll line up in a 3-point stance, but I think Thielen, because Johnson's there now, will have that kind of safety route option for Bryce Young more often. Ergo, what usually tight ends, they always say rookie quarterbacks, their best friends are tight ends. I think that was just the case last year with Thielen. So they kind of plan on maybe having that 3-receiver option set and having him be that go-to, that backup option, that worst-case scenario dump off to Thielen kind of thing. Because, like you were saying, does he have that explosion? No, he hasn't had that for 6-7 years. Even when he had it, it wasn't great. But he can get open in a 5 to 8 yards route, as we've seen. Yeah,
that's true. And after Miles Sanders kind of questioned the media, saying that he had something for us this season, I said, you know what? Let's look into it. Let's look into this Miles Sanders stuff. Don't have the exact stats, but I know he had an 800-yard season his rookie year, which he won the Rookie of the Year. He had a couple of 800-yard seasons, and he had his breakout season with that 1,200-yard season right before he came to Carolina.
He got the bag.
Had, 400-ish, 500, not even 500 yards, and, diminished carries, and now he's the second-string running back. So in order for him to get back to the guy who, at least for me, I thought was a good signing last year, for you said, hold your horses. And
I didn't think he'd be this bad. I told you I thought the first year – decent season. I thought kind of how Chuba had a pretty good back half of the year, a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of a role that he'll be okay. They'll run the ball pretty well. He'll have one good year, a second year where you're starting to see that decline, and then by year 3, unusable if not cut. He's kind of already at that second to teetering on third year that I was expecting at this point.
Do you expect him to somehow not have a break? I'm not saying he's going to have a breakout, but do you expect him to at least be better, or at least be somewhat of that guy that the Panthers were hoping to sign last year?
I think that there will be a couple of games where he'll have a high average, maybe 1 or 2 longer plays, and you're going to be like, that's the guy that we got. That's the guy we thought we were getting. I don't think he's going to have a lot of touches, especially when Jonathan Brooks comes back.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, too. I'm interested to see what happens with this offense when Jonathan Brooks comes back, because I think he gives this offense something that I don't feel like Chuba Hubbard can do. I don't feel like Miles Sanders is very great at, and I don't feel like Blackshear is great at either. And he gives you kind of that 1-2 back combination in one. Right? It feels like I feel like he can catch the football, and that's something that Miles Sanders did a lot in his rookie year, but didn't do as he continued to progress.
And he was good in Philly. He was good catching the ball, too. That's why he was so great for fantasy as well. Yeah, I think that's exactly – to me, there's a lot of guys that you want to see turn the corner this year. A lot of guys who, if you say, if he's good, the team might be better. Obviously, Bryce Young comes top of the mind.
Yeah.
I think if Jonathan Brooks has, especially after coming back after 4 games, if he has – a near rookie of the year type season, which he's certainly capable of, I think that will be the best indicator of how good the Panthers are. I do not think Bryce Young makes this massive jump to be a top 10, top 12 kind of quarterback. I think he'll, best case scenario, finish in that middle tier, 15 to 18.
Okay.
I think Jonathan Brooks, though, can get you 1,000 in 13 games. I think you're looking at a team that probably will win 2 to 3 more games than what I'm projecting, because they're going to feed him the rock constantly and just grind that clock out, much like they did a year and a half ago when Wilkes was an interim coach.
I think for me, I disagree. I think I'm not saying Bryce Young, and maybe I disagree in the fact of middle of the pack, average. I mean, there's so many great quarterbacks.
Where do you see him?
I'm not saying he's going to be top 10 by any means.
Of course not.
I think he's going to make a pretty big leap, though, because I think this offensive.
Where do you have him right now?
Right now, he's probably in at least the 20s. He's probably
from 20 to 30,
he's definitely bottom half.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, he's definitely bottom half. I think he makes the leap that maybe people thought he would make last year, or maybe I think he has, maybe not a C.J. Stroud type season, but I think he can make a C.J. Stroud type leap.
Okay. I would say the difference between the Texans and the Panthers is that the Texans had a very good team around Stroud. And then they drafted really well that first year as well. I mean, not just the defensive end that they took at third pick, but also Tank Dell. Nico Collins is still young.
That's true.
You know, they had really good young pieces. We just didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
They needed someone to throw the ball to them.
Yeah.
We don't have that.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have
could
those
agree
pieces.
with that.
I hope we do. I hope Leggett is the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that could be a move. But what I saw with Bryce Young last year, I didn't see anything where I said, man, this guy's he has top 5 potential. I never once saw that. There was not a single throw that I saw that I was like, that's why they drafted him one. No, not one time. And that's what's so disheartening. There was never a flash of, not saying he's bad, but never a flash of this guy has the potential to be the best quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
Never once had any indication of that.
Okay, I think I'm not gonna say he's gonna rise up to top 10 or anything like that. Even though C.J. Stroud in 1 year rose up to probably a top 10 quarterback in the league.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I will say I think, like you said, I think he'll be at the upper part of the mid tier at least. And I think he's
So between 15 and 20, you're thinking?
I'm thinking between 10 and 15.
Oh, that's a tough one.
It's a tough ask, but I think with a better offensive line where he can move like he's known to move. Because that's one of the things too. He has to, because of his height and all that, he has to be able to move and find the windows. That makes it a little bit more difficult for him. And I think if this offensive line can protect him, I think he can make all the throws. I think the problem last year was the offensive line and who the heck's he throwing to.
Okay.
I think there's a little more of who the heck's he throwing to this year, but I think there's at least, Deontay Johnson has been there, done that. Adam Thielen has been there, done that. And I think if Xavier Leggett has a season that all of us hope that he has, now we might be a year away from that season, but I think we could see Bryce Young make some really good plays.
And I think that's possible. I don't think top 15 is realistic. I think the goal for Bryce Young should be, let's hope as Panthers fans, he is the best quarterback in the NFC South.
Okay.
I think that is a realistic expectation. I'm not saying it'll happen, but I think that is a possibility that we could say.
So he just has to outdo Kirk Cousins pretty much.
Kirk Cousins and Baker. I mean, Baker
Baker
played amazing last year. And honestly, for as much as I hate on Baker all the time, he does put together some pretty decent statistical seasons when he has a full season ahead of him.
Yeah.
And now that he clearly is the guy, like he was the first few years in Cleveland, he could possibly, be a Pro Bowler. They could possibly make the playoffs again. I mean, he's not a bad quarterback.
And this division is a crapshoot within itself.
Oh, yeah.
You don't know. I mean, you have no idea. I mean, and that's the thing. And I guess that's what, at least for Panthers fans to be optimistic, that's the thing to be optimistic about, because you just don't know. I mean, you expect Kirk Cousins to be consistent, but who knows coming off the injury as well how confident he'll be.
And you don't. That's the thing with the Falcons too. He does not have to be Kirk Cousins who throws 35 touchdowns. He just has to be better than Desmond Ridder.
Yeah.
I mean, they were a game and a half away from winning the South last year with Desmond Ridder, who was one of the worst quarterbacks I've seen in recent memory.
Yeah.
I mean, it was bad.
Yeah.
So if he just is even 80% of Kirk Cousins that we know, I mean, that offense is going to be powerful.
Yeah.
So that's why I see why people are jumping on the Falcons train. If you're on the Saints train, get off now, because that train's left the station and the tracks are ending very soon, right to the cliff. That team's done. So at the very least, take solace in the fact that we could be the Saints this year.
Okay.
We're going up. They're right down.
Yeah, I think that leads to another conversation. I saw this video out there that the NFL put out about, and they did it with all 32 teams, but specifically the Panthers floor versus the Panthers ceiling, right? And they said the Panthers floor was 4-13.
Okay.
And they said that was their 4 wins would be against Las Vegas, Washington, Denver, and the New York Giants on the schedule.
Okay.
Now, they said their ceiling. Now, feel free, as you guys are listening here, let me know if you have something in between that, if you have something better than that. Let me know what your record prediction is too, or if you think it's, floor versus ceiling, you think they're pretty spot on. The ceiling was 8-9, so that's wins against Vegas, Washington, Denver, New York Giants, and then you add in the Chargers, the Saints, Tampa Bay, and Arizona. So I think you're splitting a couple games within the division, so that helps. You got a couple games outside of the division that could be winnable depending on what those teams are. You're looking at the Giants. You're looking at the Denver Broncos with a rookie quarterback. You hope that you can tee off on that a little bit. You don't know what Vegas is going to be. You don't know if they can ride the wave that they rode last year or not.
Sure.
That's some of the stuff you have to figure out. I think the Chargers, albeit a tough game because they're always talented, they've gotten rid of a lot of the talent they had in previous years. And I think they might even lean on running the ball a little bit more, adding Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah.
So, I think that's another part of it too. You see what Harbaugh's going to do over there, and you look at the division like we said before. You just never know. You got Arizona, who you are a little unsure of. They've had some down years, but when healthy, they're pretty good. So that's a tough one too. Tampa Bay. I think the hope would be that the Panthers would split with Tampa Bay possibly. So, what do you think? Are you leaning more towards the floor or the ceiling?
Oh, I definitely think it's the ceiling. I'm sorry, the floor. I think the floor is way more realistic. I actually have them at 3 wins.
Okay.
I don't think, and I could see, I think when I did it, it was between 3 and 4. I can maybe see 5 because I can see this team squeaking out a couple, especially towards the end of the season against division foes. I think that's more realistic, quite frankly. But as far as I'm looking at some of these teams, the teams that you're giving wins to, like the Giants, the Washington, those are 2 teams right there I think could be considerably better, especially when they're playing them, which is middle part of the season.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels, you give him 6 games to actually that they have a pretty stacked roster with Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
The Giants 2 years ago were a playoff team.
Yeah,
they won a playoff game two years ago. They have a potential to be okay. I'm not saying they're going to be world beaters.
Yeah.
I don't think those are easy wins. Even the Broncos, again, same situation. You're getting Bo Nix halfway through the season in Denver.
Right.
After he's going to have some time, and he's a 47-year-old rookie. It's not like he needs his time to start building up. He knows what he's doing. They have decent weapons. They have a pretty solid defense and a good coach. I don't think those are I think a lot of wins that you're looking at aren't realistic. I think Arizona could be one of the shocks of the entire season. I think I could see them as a 10, 11 wins team. I truly, I think Kyler Murray being back, being healthy, having Marvin Harrison with already a pretty decent defense at times.
Yeah. I wonder if Marvin Harrison is enough for him though.
Well,
because he's had a lot of talent in the past, and at least in the
never
playoffs,
to Harrison's.
Yeah,
Harrison's a different beast. James Conner is solid. Trey Benson's could be a pretty good backup running back for them. Kyler has shown where he could have MVP potential. He really does get to that level. Remember, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago? When they were 8-0, everyone was talking about he's going to win the MVP. That was not that long ago. Yeah. And it's not like he's some old quarterback. What is he, 26 years old, 27 years old? He's a young guy. And you're talking, again, back half of the season. So you want to get a lot of these bad teams early on just in case they don't build the momentum up.
Yeah.
I just don't see a lot. I do think, with that being said, there is a very, very solid possibility that the Panthers start the season 2-1. Okay. I truly believe that is and if that's the case, then there's a good chance of 5 to 6 wins.
Okay.
Because I think the Saints are terrible. I think that the Raiders are a dumpster fire as well. And that's week 1 and 3.
Yeah. Okay.
On the road makes it a little tougher, but those are 2 very winnable games. If you're not winning one of those 3 games to start the season, this season's going to be rough.
Yeah. I could agree with you. I think for me, I'm going to lean closer to the ceiling. I don't know if I lean as high up into the ceiling as they have at 8 and 9. I may say
no.
If I look at least the wins projected, right? I think the Giants is winnable because the Giants are a dumpster fire. I think Denver with a young quarterback is winnable because of that fact. I think Washington in the same, in that same breath. I think I don't know who Vegas is, but I could even take off not knowing who Vegas is. I could take that would be a loss, but I think they would beat Tampa and New Orleans and probably split in the division later on too with the Falcons. Right.
Well, that's what I was getting at. I think you could win a couple. I think the Saints are realistically where you're going to get your divisional wins and potentially split with Tampa.
Yeah.
I think that's where you could be looking. And right there, if that's the case, you're looking at 3 wins right there.
And even still with, think about going back to the Kirk Cousins situation, Kirk Cousins, for whatever reason, seems to play his worst football against against his worst competition, and maybe
or
early
if it's
on
a night game.
Yeah, so you might have that as well. So and 425 is close enough tonight to.
Well, week 18 is a TBD, so you never know. That could
might
be a
for the
flex.
division.
Yeah, absolutely.
So definitely, I'm excited. Let us know in the comments as well. What do you think? Are the Panthers closer to 4-13, or are they closer to 8-9? Let's jump into the picks and let's get on out of here.
All right,
so we're gonna pick the rest of the games. Let's start with the Panthers game to start Week 1 because I know, of course, we got a game in not too long from now on Thursday night. But let's start with the Panthers just to give the people listening at least what they want. So the Panthers at the Saints, 1:00 on Sunday. In terms of that game to beat the Saints. I mean, you said the Saints are terrible, so that helps a little bit there. I think this is one of those games where you throw everything to the wall. But I think, unfortunately for the Panthers, they could be in a situation where they start off a little slow because they didn't play barely any in the preseason. Why have such a young team and not play barely in the preseason? I don't know. I can understand it for maybe the Chiefs, which they played a lot in the preseason, I feel like. I can understand because of the Ravens' injury issues as of late, but for the Panthers, a team with a new offense, new weapons, Bryce Young in his second year, why wouldn't you play a little bit more?
I get your logic, but I mean, how much is 1 or 2 series going to do? How much is that really going to impact the season?
Mm-hmm. I think it gives a little confidence because I think you can come. I mean, if you come out in the preseason and you have a couple of good series, at least you know, okay, at least with the pieces we have, we put the pieces together. If we can do this every single week, it's a live in-game rep.
I get your logic there. I think that if you are, as a team, looking for confidence in the preseason, you are a team that's probably not going to do very well in the regular season.
Okay.
If that's where you need to build your confidence, then it's not going to work out.
You don't think the preseason helps at least?
Absolutely. The preseasen's a joke by every single standard.
You don't think it's going to make them start slow, though?
No, I think every team in the league starts slow. That's that's the issue with the first couple of weeks. That's it's this hype. Week 1, all this hype.
Mm-hmm.
Gameplay for the first couple of weeks, top to bottom, is terrible.
Yeah.
The unders always hit. Teams that put up 30 points are going to put up 22. Mm-hmm. It's just a way that it just always happens this way. Sloppy play, probably a few more fumbles, definitely a couple more interceptions because receivers are going to run the wrong route because they don't have their timing down. This is all part of the first couple of weeks. It's not just the Panthers. It's not just the Saints. It's going to be everybody top to bottom.
But playing in the preseason doesn't help that?
No, because I get what you're saying, but when you're playing in the preseason, you're not going up against the Aaron Donalds, the J.J. Watts. Those guys are sitting. You're going against the number 2s. Yeah. How much realistic gameplay are you getting from the number 2s? Mm-hmm. And the answer is not that much. The game speed's not going to be the same. The playmakers are not going to be on defense. Mm-hmm. And also, you're not showing on tape some of the plays that you'll likely run early on in the season. Yeah. So you're going to run a very vanilla offense, which they do every single game. Everyone does. Mm-hmm. So I just don't think it's going to be enough. Now, if you want to say it from I want to see if we could run the ball, okay. But from a quarterback's perspective, I think you could just run 2 hours worth of routes and practice and game speed there, and they can get their timing down in that case. And then, bad teams, young teams, they just end up having to build throughout the season. It's just the way it goes.
Okay. I mean, because I feel like some of the things you mentioned, like a receiver running the wrong route, like, yes, that's going to happen in the regular season. Mm-hmm. But if you get a couple of series in the preseason to work on your routes, work on your chemistry with that quarterback-receiver chemistry, tight end-receiver chemistry, offensive line cohesion, I feel like.
But what are you talking about? Like, you're talking about maybe three extra passes to one specific receiver, 2 extra to maybe a tight end. Like 1 extra.
It's still game speed, though, right?
It is, but if you're teams that tend to win tend to practice at game speed. I mean, that's how it usually goes. Yeah. That's why, to me, it just. I get your logic. I don't have an issue with it. The juice, though, to me, is not worth the squeeze. I mean, I don't need Chuba Hubbard rolling an ankle.
Yeah,
because we
I agree
decided
with
to
that.
run on 3rd and 1 and dive up the middle. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree. You don't want to get anybody hurt. And
But that's how
ruin
you
your
don't get them
season.
hurt is you don't play them.
Yeah,
So I
that's
mean,
true.
and if you want to get them one rep or a few downs of game speed, that's fine. But I don't see. I get it. I get the logic. Young team, but there's a lot of young teams that this is what happens. You just got to build.
Yeah, I think like you said though, I think with the Panthers and Saints, I think it's going to be a little sloppy because, like you said, it's week 1. You're getting into rhythm. You're trying to find yourself a little bit, and I think the Panthers do end up winning a sloppy game. I think they lean on Chuba Hubbard. They lean on Miles Sanders, and maybe we even see not necessarily a breakout from either of those two, but we see a little bit of a better game than what we saw last year from them because I think it's just going to be sloppy, just because everybody's going to be trying to find themselves, and I think for the Panthers, I think they're going to have to. I think they need to throw everything at the wall. Not necessarily give your whole playbook away, but try everything that's new that you can think of or everything that works that you can think of and throw it right at the Saints and show this offense can be really good. Because if you can show glimpses of this offense being really good as you continue to go along through the season, I think you can build on it.
And that's fine. That's what you need to do. I mean, that's why, if you look at typically the really good teams who are older, they do really well early on in the season, and then because they're older, they get hurt later on in the season. The ones who have a magnificent season don't get hurt at all. And then the young teams don't do well early on, and then they build throughout the season. So, I mean, that's exactly what's going to happen. I've said it numerous times now, but I think this is a case, though, where because it's going to be a sloppy game, because the Panthers can run the ball, even when Bryce Young needs to run the ball, he can run the ball.
Yeah.
I think, and J.C. Horn will be healthy for probably 3 games this whole season, and God willing, this is one of them. So I think this is a case where you shut down Olave, which is their biggest weapon. You keep an eye on Kamara, who is aging. I think that this is, honestly, I'm not being a homer here, I think this is a Panthers win. I think this is a lot of times in this first week, there's always a couple of upsets. Like, wow, they were terrible last year. Where did they come from? Yeah. I think the Panthers are in a case where they could win this game because it's a good matchup, a divisional game that they're very familiar with. And because it's going to be sloppy, it does play into some of their strengths. So I think this is a Panthers win.
And I think, too, I think the defense has the potential to be really good because I think the front 7 is really good. It is really talented. My struggle is, just like you said, is J.C. Horn's health and how that could possibly affect the rest of the secondary because this secondary is not deep.
No. I mean, it hasn't been. I mean, that's the problem. You asked me last year who the defensive player to make an impact who really need to keep an eye out and how much that's going to impact the team. And I said J.C. Horn, and it is true. When he's on the field, he's awesome, but he's just not on the field. So at least early in the season, you're going to get him for a few games. Yeah. That's why I think you got the leg up here.
All right, let's jump backwards into the Thursday night game. So we got the Ravens at the Chiefs, the AFC Championship rematch. This is, and it's similar to what you said. It's kind of one of those games where it's like you wish it was week 4, week 5.
Yeah,
right.
Or even 8 to 10 when they're
when they're clicking.
Yeah, everything's rolling.
So, but Ravens at Chiefs going to Arrowhead. I think for me, I think the Ravens win. I think for the simple fact of, number one, when a lot of times a team that lost in the playoffs, they come back and they win in the regular season that next year.
Okay.
For whatever reason, that's just how it goes. I think if we want to talk about a sloppy game, and it's hard to make the Chiefs play sloppy, it's hard to get the Chiefs to struggle. But if we're going to talk about a sloppy game, the Ravens giving the ball off to Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
And doing what they do best is what will happen. I think it'll be interesting to see what this wide receiver room does for the Ravens. But I think the Chiefs got some new faces too that they're going to have to try to iron out too. And I don't know the last time the Chiefs started 0-1, but I think this is the year.
Well, I can tell you it was this time last year.
Was it really?
The Lions beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead, and I don't see the Chiefs losing 2 years in a row on opening night. Yeah. I just can't see it. I think the Ravens will be another, again, they're always good, but I don't think they win the division. I don't think they're going to have the same record. I think they'll probably regress a little bit, and the losses have to pile up somewhere. This is one of those games. I think Ravens will end up being a 10-win team. Again, very good, probably a wild card team. But I don't think the Chiefs will have as much of an issue with Baltimore as they would with a Detroit team from last year because they do match up pretty well. Chiefs have a very good defense.
Always have, yeah.
Chris Jones is a monster up front. If anybody's going to be able to shut down Derrick Henry, it's going to be him. I just think that if it gets into who's going to outduel who, I will always take Pat Mahomes.
Okay, and I think too, the one thing about the Chiefs' defense at least is it's been historically not good defending the run, and last year, especially in the AFC Championship game, that's what the Ravens didn't do. So if they can lean on the run against a defense that probably hasn't gotten much better against the run, I think they can win.
Well, and that's the thing about what people think about the Chiefs, though, is what you're saying is right. There is a perception of that. But the last 2 or 3 years when they've been on the Super Bowl run, they have made a conscientious effort to stop the run and just play an overall better defense.
Yeah.
So that's why I think we think of the Chiefs as high-powered offense and pretty good defense.
Yeah.
They have an awesome defense. And the reason why they made it to, like, they were as good as they were last year was not because of Mahomes, who had an amazing season for most quarterbacks, but a pretty good season for his standards.
Yeah.
It was because their defense was awesome. 2 years ago, their defense was even better. Mahomes was terrible. That's when he was throwing all those picks.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, unless things have changed with their defense, which I don't think it has, I know that they lost their one of their cornerbacks, but outside of that, I don't think that they're going to regress much defensively. And as long as they're still good, they're going to keep rolling.
I think last point on this one, but I feel like given that the Ravens ran the ball 6 times last year in the AFC Championship game, I don't see them running the ball 6 times in a regular season game. So, I think that helps a little bit. Yeah. They made some waves in the running game. They just, for whatever reason, refused to stick to it. I didn't realize there was a Friday game on this one. But
yeah, which a lot of people are not happy about this Friday game because it's in Brazil and a lot of the players are expressing their concerns about. Basically, all of these players were told, do not leave your hotel. Just go right to the game. Do not leave your hotel because there's a lot of safety concerns out there right now in Rio, which I think it's in Rio. And this is always tough because you have the Eagles, who I think overall is a better team, but you have the Packers, who everyone wants to jump on that bandwagon because of what happened last year and the beatdown they gave my boys. I think the Eagles are still the better team. I think Jordan Love and the Packers had a great second half of last season. It's tough for me to really get behind a team that's only done it for 8 or 9 games when the Eagles have done it for now 3 or 4 seasons. I'm going to take the Eagles, and if I'm wrong, so be it. But I think that's one of those cases where Packers have to show me more in order for me to take them in a game like this.
Yeah, I think the Packers have. I don't know if they haven't shown it for long enough, like you said, but I will say, I think they showed me a lot. I was highly impressed, and I think they're going to be in a dogfight throughout this division. And I think they got to work early to get up in this division because I think between them and the Bears, I think the Bears, especially if Caleb Williams is as advertised, the Bears could be good, and they could be fighting for that too. We know Detroit's going to be good, so I'm gonna go Packers to kind of get an edge up a little bit on this one.
Okay, we're opposites on the first 2 games. Very good.
All right, so we got the Sunday games. We're starting off with the Steelers at the Falcons.
If Justin Fields is a starter, I would take the Steelers, but I don't trust Russell Wilson. I think his career's over. I think the Falcons have a lot of weapons offensively. I'm very excited to see what they have. They have a pretty good young defense, and they're at home in the Dome. I'll take the Falcons.
I think the Steelers have a decent season with Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson has an okay season, but I think the Falcons will win this game. I think Kirk Cousins, I think he finds his way back. I think he does what he does in the regular season. I think he plays well, and I think the Falcons are gonna kind of put some people on notice because of the Steelers' defense specifically. I think people are going to be like, oh, the Falcons are pretty decent. Now, is that going to last? Who knows? But I think in this particular game, I think they're going to show some.
I think the Steelers by week 5 will be on to Justin Fields. I think it'll happen that quickly. I think if they start 1-3 or 2-2, but the offense has sputtered the entire time and they're getting by on their defense, they're just going to say, we could go to Justin Fields and he can run the ball and control the clock. Let's just do it that way.
I think it was smart for them to grab him
I think it was a fantastic move. You got Russell Wilson for peanuts on the dollar there, and you have Justin Fields for what, $20 million.
And if he's
your guy, he's your guy.
Yeah,
right? And if he's not, you're still going to get him on the cheaps.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is, Russell Wilson may not be where he once was in his career, but he knows a lot. and he can teach Justin Fields a lot.
Agreed.
So and I think that's
if he wants to.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is always a question with that.
That's true. The Cardinals at the Bills. I personally think the Bills are going to be awful.
Awful. What is awful?
I don't think they're winning the division.
Under 500?
Maybe. I don't think they can. I don't think they're going to be able to just lean on Josh Allen again this year. The biggest complaint.
What do you think they did last year?
That's what they did.
They've been doing that for years.
But Josh Allen is a turnover monster, right? It's spooky season. He's a turnover monster. That's what he does. He turns the ball over.
Spooky season, turnover monster. I like that.
But I will say, if the Bills have to lean on him, it's going to be tough because the complaint was, we don't have any talent. We don't have enough talent around Josh Allen. Well, luckily for them, they got rid of all their talent, and they're hoping that a rookie, Keon Coleman, can come in and just break everybody. And it's possible that he does. If he does, I'm wrong, right?
Sure.
If he has an amazing season, I'm probably wrong about this, but I'm going with the Cardinals.
I don't think that they are a 13-4 team. I do not think they're winning the division. I do think they're a wild card team still. If they were playing a better team, I think the Cardinals will be good, but this is, again, one of those cases where I think they'll get better throughout the year. I think Buffalo wins in a close one. I think the spread's like 6 or 7. I would take the points in this case. But if you're talking just a straight-up win, Bills will win. It'll be a field goal probably a field goal or 4-point kind of situation here, though.
And DeMar Hamlin is scheduled to start.
Yeah,
so that's
good for him.
Pretty awesome. So the Tennessee Titans at the Chicago Bears.
This is the closest game on the road. Honestly, in the entire top to bottom, this to me is the hardest game to pick.
You think so?
I do. I do not know. So I think Tennessee is not going to be good. I think that people fall in love with rookie quarterbacks too easily, especially first picks, like we saw last year with Bryce.
Yeah.
There's a statistic I saw that I think in the last 15 or 20 years, the number one overall quarterback has not won their opening game, which is absurd. So for me to say I'm going to take the Bears would be tough. I liked Will Levis out of college. I think that they're going to let it fly. I think that's why I could talk myself in and out of either team. So I'm going to take the Titans just because I think the Bears are not there yet.
Okay. I think and it may just be lucky circumstances, and that's not a shot at Caleb Williams and how talented he is, but I think the Bears, and I think Caleb Williams specifically, is going to put all of this number one overall pick, can't win, can't make the playoffs, can't win the division stuff to bed.
You think they're going to win the division?
But I might be reaching a little bit.
That sounds like a reach.
But the only reason I say that is Caleb Williams is one of the few first overall picks that wasn't actually a first overall pick. Meaning,
yeah, I get you.
The team wasn't set up to be a first overall pick.
But Bryce Young was in the same boat last year. They did not have the first overall pick. They traded for it. It's no different.
Okay.
And we saw how that played out.
Yeah, I guess you're right. But but also the team around him is far better than what Bryce Young probably has now, and also what he had last year.
I don't think you're wrong, but hindsight. This time last year, we were saying, hey, we were 8-9 the year before. Now we actually got a quarterback. Yeah. We just added a top running back. Right. We should be awesome. We kept Brian. We still got Brian Burns. J.C. Horn's healthy. This is definitely our division to win. That didn't turn out too well. None of those predictions were correct. Right. So I get what you're saying. I don't think obviously they're not a terrible one-win team that got the first pick. They're a better team. I think they finished 8-9 last year or 7-10. But I don't know. It is just very difficult for a rookie quarterback to come in and win. They can come in and throw the ball pretty well. They run the ball pretty well. I mean, they can make like fantasy numbers look good, and they make themselves look good for that. Yeah. But it's very hard to win when you're a rookie quarterback.
That's true. Patriots at Bengals.
Bengals, you can move on from here.
That's
the number one pick next year. The Patriots are the number one pick next year.
Bengals whether Jamar Chase shows up or not. I don't
know.
No,
he just signed. He's good. Okay, everything's good. Yeah, he's reporting. I shouldn't say signed, but he's reporting.
Well, there you go. The Patriots are gonna be terrible, and I don't know why they don't go ahead and let Drake May play and see how it goes, as opposed to Jacoby Brissett, which I think we've seen what that ceiling is. But the Texans at the Colts.
I think everyone's going to take the Texans. I don't think it's the wrong pick. I think I like the Colts, though. I think that Richardson coming back, I like the way he plays when he learns how to slide. He's very tough to handle. I think the Texans, people know how to play the Texans because they've now had 17, 18 games of tape of C.J. Stroud. Mm-hmm. They only have 4 games of Anthony Richardson.
Yeah,
and when he was playing, people were having trouble stopping him.
Yeah.
So I think as long as Anthony Richardson doesn't stop himself, I think the Colts could potentially win this game. And if you're going to give me a divisional rival at home, I'm going to take the home team as long as they're pretty close in talent.
Yeah, and I honestly feel like the Colts going to shock the world a little bit here, because I think they're going to win this game, and I think a lot of it is because of what you said, but I think them winning this game alone, I think it's going to cause an extreme overreaction on how this division is going to go early on.
This will be a dogfight.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
It's a really good division.
Yeah.
I mean, not in the sense that I don't think any of them will win the Super Bowl, but I think at least the Texans, Colts, and Jags could all win that division, and I would not be shocked.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of the Jags at the Dolphins, I think this has to be Trevor Lawrence's year to prove why he is the guy who everybody thinks he is, why he is kind of this prodigy type of guy, at least for a lot of people. I think this is the year to prove it. I'm not saying they're going to move on from him or nothing like that, but I think in terms of on the field, in terms of successes in the playoffs, I think this is the year for him to prove it. He ain't going to prove it in week 1 against the Dolphins because they're just too talented.
Yeah, and I just heard that there could be a really big rainstorm coming that day in Florida, and if that's the case, I just trust the backfield overall for Miami more. Yeah. Mostert and Achane are, I think, the best 1-2 combo in the league. Mm-hmm. So in a game like that, if you're giving me those two or ETN, I'm going to trust those two over him. So I like the Dolphins in this one. It'll be sloppy. It'll be a lower scoring game, I think, than people are going to expect. Yeah. But I'll take the Dolphins.
Okay. Vikings at Giants. I think the Giants win this game. I don't know. It's just there's a lot of uncertainty with the Vikings. No J.J. McCarthy. I think that hurts. Of course, no Kirk Cousins anymore in Minnesota. I mean,
I don't trust Sam Darnold. There's just no way. I mean, I just can't. I can't get behind that. So yeah, I'm going to agree with you on this one. The Giants, but the Giants have one of those situations right now, especially to build momentum. If they don't win this game, this could be a absolute sell for the rest of the year. Yeah. But if they win this game, that might be the little momentum they need to get this ball rolling to getting close to what they were a couple of years ago when they made the playoffs.
You think the Daniel Jones experiment's over?
I thought it should never have started, quite frankly. I never was a big fan of his. But, now that they're doing what you should do, which you gave a quarterback money, now give him the weapons, the opportunities. They revamped the offensive line. Yeah. I'm not a big running back guy. They got probably the best receiver in the draft. So they have options. They just picked up Burns. They have a much better roster. Yeah. So for what it's worth, if he's going to win, if he don't win this year, bye-bye.
Yeah, I agree. Raiders at Chargers. I'm going with, as much as I don't believe in the Chargers in terms of this season, I think they win this game.
Yeah, I believe in the Chargers. I think they're a 10-win team. I think if you're going to give Justin Herbert a good running game, they still have a pretty solid pass rush. Their defense is okay, and I think Harbaugh is one of the best coaches in football. I like, as long as Justin Herbert, I don't know if he's healthy. If he's playing and he's out of that boot and all that, I'm going to take the Chargers. And I think they're going to be a pretty good team this year.
All right, Broncos at the Seahawks.
This one's tough. I'm going to go with Seattle just because it's at home. If the Broncos were at home, I'd probably switch my pick here, but I'll take Seattle with Geno Smith, 12th man. Again, stacked receiving core, good running game, and a lot of unknowns with Bo Nix.
And the thing about Seattle is I think their defense is going to improve under Mike Macdonald, and I think that's going to help too. And especially in a Week 1 game where you don't know who's who yet. Yeah. That's a perfect recipe for Seattle to get a Week 1 win. Yep. Cowboys at the Browns.
I'll let you go first.
All right. So for me, I think the Browns are going to find their way back up this season. Now against the Cowboys, that's a tough one. especially to start the season. No Nick Chubb. I think no Nick Chubb is the biggest part of this whole equation. I don't even know who their backup running back is.
Jerome Ford. He was pretty incredible. One of the reasons why Joe Flacco had his awesome run is because when Jerome Ford stepped in, it was almost like you didn't miss Nick Chubb.
Okay.
Ford is a good running back. I mean, I'm not saying he's Nick Chubb when healthy. He's clearly not. But Ford is a very good backup.
Okay.
That I don't think they'll have an issue with. Deshaun Watson is my concern.
You think he's done?
I don't. Yeah, I think he's been done for years. I mean, it's very telling when your team, you're 500, and then you get hurt, and then the team with the sixth quarterback on the roster takes you to the playoffs. I mean, that's very telling to me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the Cowboys, and I'm not saying this as a Cowboys fan. I'm saying this as a non-believer of Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, okay. I think Deshaun Watson's going to find his way back. I just don't think it's going to be in this game against a tough team against the Cowboys have everything they need to make a run. They just don't. So
and a good defense, which I think they're going to regress a little bit on defense, but they're still going to have a good defense.
Okay. Washington Commanders, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think Tampa wins this one just off of having the most veteran experience out of all of this. I think Jalen Daniels in his first game, that's tough. That's a tough ask, especially against Tampa Bay, whose defense has been pretty consistent throughout the years. So I'm going to go Tampa.
I agree with that. I think of all of the rookie quarterbacks who have potential to win, I would say that this is probably the most likely. But with that being said, I would still trust Baker Mayfield and the division-winning Bucs to win at home in Week 1. If this was Week 6, Week 7, we might be talking a different conversation. Yeah. But I think given where they're at, I got to take the Bucs.
Okay, Sunday Night Football, we got the divisional rematch with the Rams at the Lions. And I think I'm going to go with a similar strategy that I did last time. I think the Rams end up winning this game. I don't know. Something's telling me the Lions are going to regress a little bit just because they were so good last year.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
But I think the Rams are going to help the regression.
I can see that, and I think you're right. I think the Rams win their division this year. I think the Niners will take a step back. Still great, but I think the Rams have a 12-13 win season in them. I think the Lions will still be good, 10, 11 wins. However, I think the Rams have just as much, if not more, talent top to bottom. I trust Stafford over Goff a little bit more, even though I love Goff as well. And I trust McVay more than I do Dan Campbell. So I'm going to take the Rams in a very close one. And if you told me the Lions beat them by 10, I wouldn't be shocked either because the Lions are the real deal. It's just this year they're not sneaking up on anybody.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so the Jets at the 49ers. I think the Jets are going to be right up there with some of the top teams in the AFC because, Aaron Rodgers is about as consistent as it comes as long as he's healthy. And I think he will be healthy. And I think this is going to be that little spark that the Jets have been looking for a long, long time. I think it starts against the 49ers.
So I was really big on Rodgers and the Jets last year, thinking he just had a rough last season with Green Bay. The more I think about it, though, and the older he gets, and now coming off the Achilles, and even though he's not a scrambling quarterback, a running quarterback, he is somebody who does move around a lot in the pocket. I don't know how good this team really will be. I think they're going to be better than they were last year because their quarterback play was dreadful last year. Can't get any worse there. But I do not think they're going to be in that tier that everyone's thinking we're going to beat Miami, we're going to beat the Bills. I don't think they're still there. If they made a wild card, not shocked. But I think that they are either the second or third best team in their division. And the Niners at home on a Monday night game, coming off an overtime Super Bowl loss with all the same horses in the race from last year, I think they're still going to be good. They'll probably be a number 1 seed or potentially. I still like the Rams, but they still have that likelihood of being a number 1 seed this year. No reason to think differently as long as McCaffrey's hurt.
And they kind of got to do it this
year,
right?
It. This is it.
Debo's
probably gone.
Got to go. Unfortunately.
Purdy's got to get paid. I mean, Trent Williams is pushing, 40, 41 now? Yeah. This is a now or never, but I think they've missed their window. But with that being said, I still like 49ers to win on Monday night to start the season. This is one of those teams, though, as the year gets longer and longer, I think this is one of those teams that'll get worse and worse.
Okay. Let's wrap it up. Definitely hope you guys enjoyed the show. Appreciate you for coming by.
Buddy.
Always a lot of fun. Definitely have to have you on as the season progresses.
We need updates on these picks too.
Yeah, we definitely do. But I definitely hope you guys enjoyed the show. I'll see you next time on the Keep Prowling podcast. It's on all major podcasting platforms. So be sure to check the podcast out. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. And if you liked it, be sure to give me a thumbs up.